Introduction. Look at this image on the screen. Does it appear to be moving? It's completely still. Your brain, that magnificent pattern-seeking organ, is conjuring motion where none exists, revealing the first of many peculiar truths about human vision we'll explore today. Welcome to Unusual Facts About Vision, where we'll venture beyond the conventional understanding of sight and delve into the bewildering realm of visual perception. What we see is not a perfect representation of reality, but rather an elaborate construction, a waking dream assembled by our brains from incomplete data, filled with strange anomalies and fascinating quirks. Our journey today will traverse the labyrinth of visual mysteries, from the inverted images on our retinas to people who can perceive impossible colors, from curious visual conditions that distort reality to the extraordinary visual capabilities of other species that put our own sight to shame. The inverted world, perhaps the most fundamental peculiarity of human vision, is that everything you've ever seen has been upside down on your retina. Light entering your eye projects an inverted image onto the back of your eye, yet you perceive the world right side up. This inversion occurs because light travels in straight lines, and when it passes through your pupil, rays from the top of objects land on the bottom of your retina, while rays from the bottom land on the top. Your brain performs this remarkable feat of reorientation so seamlessly that you're never aware of it happening. Even more astonishing, your visual system doesn't merely flip the image. It reconstructs your entire visual field from scratch, creating the illusion of seamless vision despite significant flaws in the raw data it receives. The conspicuous absence: every human eye has a blind spot, a region where the optic nerve connects to the retina, creating a small area devoid of photoreceptors. Close one eye, focus on a specific point, and a portion of your visual field should simply vanish. Yet you rarely notice this glaring gap in your vision. Your brain, the master illusionist, fills this void with a plausible continuation of surrounding patterns and textures. This neural sleight of hand extends beyond blind spots. Your brain is constantly fabricating much of what you see, especially in your peripheral vision. Even more curious is the bizarre arrangement of your eye's architecture. The blood vessels that nourish your retina sit in front of your photoreceptors, casting shadows and creating additional blind spots. Your brain diligently erases these imperfections from your conscious perception. Backward design: if an engineer designed the human eye today, they'd be ridiculed for what appears to be a fundamental flaw. Unlike a well-designed camera, our photoreceptors are positioned behind a tangle of nerves and blood vessels. This backward, retinal design means light must navigate through multiple layers of tissue before reaching the cells that detect it. This seemingly inefficient arrangement creates not only the blind spot we just discussed, but also contributes to conditions like macular degeneration. Some evolutionary biologists speculate this peculiar design is a legacy constraint from our aquatic evolutionary ancestors, where this arrangement offered advantages. Yet despite these structural oddities, our visual system performs astoundingly well, processing enormous amounts of information at speeds that put supercomputers to shame. Colors beyond imagination: most humans possess 3 types of cone cells, allowing us to perceive roughly 1 million colors. But a small percentage of people, mostly women, possess a 4th type of cone cell, a condition called tetrachromacy. These individuals can perceive an estimated 100 million colors, hues and variations completely invisible to the rest of us. Imagine colors you've never seen before, colors that exist beyond your brain's capacity to envision them. Just as a person born blind cannot imagine visual colors, even those with normal vision cannot fathom the expanded color spectrum experienced by tetrachromats. Similarly perplexing is synesthesia, where some individuals literally see sounds as colors or perceive numbers and letters in specific hues, an enchanting perceptual crossing of sensory boundaries that neuroscientists are still struggling to fully comprehend. The invisible rainbow: while we marvel at the visible spectrum, vast portions of the electromagnetic spectrum remain imperceptible to human eyes. Infrared, ultraviolet, radio waves, all invisible to us yet teeming with information. Some animals, however, can access these hidden dimensions. Bees see ultraviolet patterns on flowers completely invisible to humans. Snakes detect infrared radiation, allowing them to see the body heat of prey in total darkness. The mantis shrimp possesses 16 types of photoreceptors compared to our mere 3, perceiving ultraviolet, infrared, and even detecting polarized light. If we could momentarily borrow the visual systems of these creatures, the world would appear so alien that we might fail to recognize even familiar surroundings. Our perceived reality is merely one interpretation among countless possibilities. Change blindness. Your brain, perpetually overloaded with visual information, employs drastic shortcuts that sometimes result in remarkable failures of perception. Among these is change blindness, our startling inability to notice significant alterations in our visual field when they occur during brief interruptions. In experiments, researchers can swap people's conversation partners without them noticing, or change the color of buildings in images during a brief flash. This isn't mere inattention, it's a fundamental limitation of human consciousness. In real life, this phenomenon explains why witnesses to crimes often provide contradictory accounts. Your visual memory isn't recording continuously like a camera. It's taking sporadic snapshots and filling the gaps with assumptions, creating an illusion of uninterrupted awareness. Faces in the CLOUDS pareidolia. The tendency to perceive meaningful patterns, particularly faces, in random stimuli, reveals another curious aspect of our visual processing. That face you see in an electrical outlet or clouds isn't a coincidence. It's your brain's overeager pattern recognition system at work. This phenomenon stems from specialized neural networks devoted specifically to facial recognition, so specialized that they sometimes trigger false positives, detecting faces where none exist. This heightened sensitivity evolved because quickly identifying faces offered significant survival advantages for our ancestors. This visual quirk has influenced art, religion, and culture throughout human history. From the Man in the Moon to the Virgin Mary appearing in a grilled cheese sandwich, pareidolia has shaped human experience in profound and sometimes unexpected ways. Motion induced blindness stare at a fixed point while small colored dots blink in your peripheral vision. Mysteriously, these dots will periodically vanish from your perception despite being physically present in your visual field, a phenomenon called motion-induced blindness. This peculiar effect occurs because your visual system prioritizes change and movement over static elements. When resources are limited, your brain simply stops processing information it deems less important, causing perfectly visible objects to temporarily disappear from your conscious awareness. This isn't a flaw but a feature. Your visual system evolved to detect predators and prey, where motion detection often meant the difference between life and death. Static elements presented less immediate relevance for survival. Phantom visions, the brain's creative interpretation of visual data, extends to extraordinary cases like Charles Bonnet syndrome, where visually impaired individuals experience complex hallucinations despite having no psychiatric condition. These phantom visions occur because the visual cortex, deprived of normal input, begins generating its own imagery. Similarly baffling is the phenomenon of blindsight, where people who are cortically blind, having damage to their visual cortex, can nonetheless respond to visual stimuli they cannot consciously see. When asked to guess the location of objects they claim not to see, they answer with surprising accuracy. These conditions reveal that conscious visual perception is only one aspect of a multi-layered visual processing system, with much occurring beneath the threshold of awareness. Visual snow and distortions. Some individuals experience visual snow, seeing the world as if through static on an old television, constantly, from birth. Unlike hallucinations, these are consistent anomalies in visual processing that overlay reality rather than replacing it. Even more bizarre is Alice in Wonderland syndrome, where objects appear dramatically larger or smaller than they actually are or seem impossibly distant. These distortions can last minutes or hours, transforming familiar environments into surreal landscapes reminiscent of Carroll's famous novel. These conditions remind us how fragile our visual construction of reality truly is. Minor changes in brain chemistry or neural activity can dramatically alter our perception, raising profound questions about the nature of objective reality. the ghost in the machine after prolonged exposure to a moving stimulus, stationary objects appear to move in the opposite direction, the waterfall effect. Stare at a waterfall for minutes, then look at the rocks beside it, and they'll seem to drift upward. These motion after effects occur because neurons responsible for detecting motion in one direction become fatigued, creating an imbalance in neural activity that produces the illusion of movement in the opposite direction. Similar after effects occur with color, where staring at a vivid hue produces an afterimage in its complementary color. These persistent visual echoes demonstrate that what we see is not a direct perception of external reality, but rather the product of active neural processing, a sophisticated interpretation rather than a passive recording. The eyes of others, the diversity of visual systems across species reveals how specialized our own vision truly is. Eagles can spot a rabbit from 2 miles away. Dragonflies process visual information so quickly that the world appears to move in slow motion for them. Mantis shrimp not only see more colors, but can also detect polarized light, giving them access to visual information completely invisible to humans. Even more alien are the compound eyes of insects, which create a mosaic-like image composed of thousands of tiny pictures. This visual system excels at detecting motion, but provides relatively poor resolution for static images, a completely different visual priority than our own. These extraordinary variations demonstrate that vision isn't about seeing truth. It's about extracting information relevant to survival in a particular ecological niche. Eyeless sight, perhaps most confounding of all visual phenomena, is the ability of some blind people to navigate obstacles without conscious visual perception, a capability termed blindsight. After damage to the visual cortex renders them consciously blind, some pathways continue processing visual information subconsciously. Even more remarkable are rare cases of individuals who, despite having their eyes removed entirely, report seeing flashes of light or simple patterns. This phenomenon suggests that vision may not be entirely dependent on the eyes themselves, with some visual processing occurring independently in the brain. These cases force us to question fundamental assumptions about the nature of sight and the boundary between physical sensation and neural interpretation. Conclusion: the Fabricated world. As we conclude our exploration of vision's strange landscape, one revelation stands paramount. What you see is not reality itself, but a carefully constructed model. Your brain receives incomplete, inverted, gap-filled data and transforms it into the seamless visual experience you take for granted. This model prioritizes useful information over perfect accuracy. It fills in blanks, corrects errors, and sometimes invents content entirely. It ignores vast portions of available light information while overemphasizing others. It is, in essence, a pragmatic fiction, useful but incomplete. The next time you open your eyes, remember, you're not looking at the world directly. You're watching a simulation constructed by your brain, a waking dream stitched together from fragments of light. In the enigmatic interplay between photons, neurons, and consciousness lies one of the greatest mysteries of human experience. Thank you for joining me on this journey through vision's curious landscape.